there are a lot of people that are ignoring their scalp issues. They just want to go straight to the hair growth. I just want my hair to grow. You don't know, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I just want my hair to grow, Kendra. I just tell me what to use to make my hair grow. Now, today we are talking about what happens when your scalp needs extra attention. And the reason we are covering this today is because most women are chasing hair growth. All right. So when I initially started my channel, or started my business even, it was mostly, or it still is, mostly geared towards women over the age of 40. So that's 40, 50, 60, 70 and up, right? That are wanting to regrow their hair. They're dealing with hair loss issues, all of the things, right? And so one thing I noticed, or I've kind of like shifted a little bit more into, is making sure that we are dealing with our hair growth or our hair loss at the scalp level. Okay, because the scalp is going to be the foundation of healthy hair growth. All right, that keeps us from chasing products, that keeps us from chasing length, especially if you're dealing with issues pertaining to length retention, dry hair, itchiness at the scalp level, irritation, flakes, and all of those things. So I think today's live will kind of help to manage some of those issues that we've been having. And then if you stay to the end, I'm going to announce something special that we're launching. So if you're new here, my name is Kendra. I am the founder of 180 Hair, and I help women over the age of 40 restore their hair health using holistic solutions. So holistic solutions basically means that we deal with the mindset, habits, and nutrition, the whole body, okay? Not just hair. I don't help women deal with hair loss by just talking about hair all the time. We talk about the other things that are related to hair health, which is also body wellness. So again, this live is about what it looks like on your scalp when it needs extra attention. So let's start with this truth. Like I said before, most women are chasing hair growth. Okay. We buy growth oils, we buy growth serums, vitamins, edge products. We try everything. Okay. And as someone that makes and sells hair care, scalp care products, I have seen it all. I've been doing this for over a decade, and I've heard almost every story in the book about hair loss, hair growth using products, and women just being frustrated overall with not seeing the results that they want to see. Okay. But I need you to understand that the scalp decides whether growth is even possible. Okay. It's your scalp that decides when, how healthy, how strong, how beautiful, how quick, how slow your hair is actually going to grow, or if it's even possible at all. Okay. And remember, healthy hair growth happens when your scalp is healthy and balanced. Your hair can grow if your scalp is unhealthy. Your hair can grow if you are dealing with different types of issues and deficiencies, because the biology of your hair is it's going to grow. How it grows, how healthy it grows, how strong it grows, again, is going to depend on several different factors. So we're going to cover some of that today. So if you're dealing with things like itching, flakes, any type of irritation, tightness, burning, tingling, a scalp that's suddenly very oily, then this video is going to be for you. Today, I'm breaking down the signs that your scalp may need extra attention. So if your goal is healthy hair growth and you're dealing with hair growth issues, or not really understanding why you're not seeing the results that you want, or you're dealing with severe scalp issues, then these are going to be the signs that you want to pay attention to. These are the 5 signs that your scalp needs extra attention. Sign number 1 is going to be itching. Okay. Itching is going to be, again, irritation, disruption at the scalp barrier level. It's going to be buildup. It's going to be sensitivity. Any type of microbial imbalance is going to trigger itching. All right. And these can come from things like harsh shampoos. So using shampoos that have things like too much fragrance or too many synthetic ingredients, essential oils can trigger scalp itching. We would think that essential oils, because they're natural, they won't cause issues, but sometimes we use essential oils undiluted, or we use them at very high ratios, which are not healthy for our skin and scalp. Edge controls or heavy gels that we use can also cause itching. Okay, a lot of these things have different types of alcohols, and again, a lot of fragrances, heavy on the fragrance, that trigger scalp itching. And then of course, protective styles, because remember, a lot of the protective styles that have hair extensions included, those hair extensions normally contain chemicals and coatings on the hair that are actually very irritating to the scalp. All right. So what makes it worse? Of course, when you got itch, you want to scratch it. And although that feels soothing and that feels like it's, helping, it's really making it worse. And then another thing that I notice a lot of times we like to do when our scalp is itching, we want to add more oils. We think that if it's itching, it's dry, we need to add oils. That can over time make it worse. And then of course, using essential oils directly on the scalp, that is definitely going to disrupt your scalp barrier and things like that. So what we want to do when we're dealing with itching is we want to make sure we gently reset the scalp, calm the scalp barrier, and support the scalp so that it can get back healthy and we can see the growth that we want to see. So that's something that we need to deal with before we worry about growth, or while we are worrying about or dealing with growth. So sign number 2 that your scalp needs extra attention is going to be tightness. All right. Tightness at the scalp. So this can signal dryness at the scalp level, over cleansing. Sometimes we over cleanse our scalp and then it gets really, really dry. All right. And you have that tight feeling. And then of course, inflammation and tension. So the tension is anything, again, that's tight at the scalp level. Things that trigger this is going to be harsh detergents. So these are specific shampoos that are going to be a little bit too harsh, because remember, we all can have or potentially have sensitivities to certain ingredients. And then these are also shampoos that we may be using that are stripping the natural oils of the scalp. Okay, so these are going to be your clarifying shampoos. Anytime you're doing like a detox to your scalp too often or too frequently, especially when you don't need it, that can trigger tightness of the scalp. Of course, tight hairstyles is going to be a trigger for this. And then if you're in a low humidity climate. What makes it worse, what makes all of these worse is ignoring it. All right. Also adding random oils. Again, if your scalp feels tight, it doesn't necessarily mean you need an oil, especially if you're oiling and you're not hydrating first. Your scalp and your hair needs water, then oil. So you have to hydrate, then seal. That creates the moisture. That's going to relieve the itching, the tightness, and those types of things. So extra attention in this area is going to, again, mean barrier support, moisture support. And again, moisture is a process, not a product. Moisturizing the hair and scalp means you hydrate and then seal. Okay? You hydrate and then you seal. That is going to get the moisture support that you need. And then, of course, reducing tension is going to help with the irritation as well. Sign number 3, your scalp needs extra attention, is going to be flakes. All right. Dry scalp, irritation, buildup, imbalance. These are not always dandruff. Okay. We think that every time we see flakes that means dandruff. All right. That is not always the case. If you are layering products, if you are cleansing your hair not often enough, and you use a lot of products all the time on your scalp, a lot of oils, a lot of greases, a lot of gels, and you don't cleanse your scalp frequently enough, if you're, again, using harsh dandruff products because you see flakes, you think it's dandruff, so you start using harsh dandruff products, residue from your styling products, again, these are things that can trigger flakes. Okay, and then what makes it worse, of course, is treating all flakes the same. All flakes are not created equal. All right. And using those medicated shampoos, those can be very harsh, especially when you don't need them. So we need to identify the type of flakes that we have, then calm the irritation or the inflammation. All right. And then reset the routine. So those are the things that you would need to do if you are experiencing flakes. Now, sign number 4 that your scalp needs extra attention is burning and tingling. Okay. Burning and tingling. Now, this is inflammation. This could be an allergic reaction. This is also commonly some type of barrier damage, some type of tension or chemical sensitivity. Remember, we all have the potential to be sensitive to chemicals in products. Our common triggers, again, essential oils applied incorrectly. If y'all are applying essential oils to your scalp undiluted, that is asking for irritation, burning, and tingling. Okay. Fragrances can cause this, again, harsh shampoos, and then tight hairstyles. We know how, I'm sure most people have had some tight braids or a tight protective style, and your scalp is burning. Okay. That's a problem. And then what makes it worse is when we try to push through the burning and the tingling. We try to push through it and say, okay, it'll stop in a few days. Continuing to use the same product over and over scrubbing, over scratching or digging in the scalp. All of these things can cause more issues. Okay. So we need to stop the irritants, calm the scalp, simplify the routine, and focus on recovering. I want to say this again. If you are using essential oils on your scalp undiluted, what that means, you're not adding them to a carrier oil. A carrier oil is things like olive oil, jojoba oil, almond oil, grapeseed oil. If you're not diluting essential oils and you're adding them directly to your scalp, you are creating additional irritation. Okay. I know we like that tingling sensation, but that tingling sensation does not mean that it's doing something good. Okay. That's just the sensitivity that those things cause on the scalp. And you can actually make your scalp overly sensitive to everything. You use essential oils directly on your scalp too much, everything will start to trigger a sensitivity or burning and tingling in your scalp, because you will disrupt your scalp's natural microbiome. And that's what keeps you protected from additional irritation on the scalp in the first place. So you're kind of being trading one thing for the other. So just be careful with that. You'll be surprised how little essential oils you actually need to be effective. So sign number 5 that your scalp needs extra attention is sudden oiliness. If you've ever had an issue and your scalp just suddenly was way more oily than you're used to, this can come from your scalp overcompensating from things that you may be doing in your routine, like overstripping the scalp. This can come from also inflammation, scalp compensation, like I said, builds up and imbalance. What can trigger this? So what triggers sudden oiliness? Again, anything that is stripping the scalp of its natural oils. Remember, your body is we call it a machine. It's a system. Okay. It's doing things without you having to do anything to help it. And one thing that your scalp does specifically is it makes a natural oil or natural lubricant for your scalp, which is called sebum. Okay. So when we disrupt that process, the scalp tries to overcompensate by making more oil or producing more oil. So remember, using these harsh shampoos, washing our hair too much, using really strong cleansers, heavy products at the scalp all the time, these can trigger sudden oiliness. What makes it worse is trying to overcompensate by washing your hair more harder or washing your scalp, adding more oils, of course, and then confusing oil with moisture. Remember, oiling your scalp is not moisturizing your scalp ever. Okay. Again, we want to balance the scalp. We use gentle cleansers, and we want to make sure we're supporting the scalp barrier. So those are the 5 signs that your scalp needs extra attention. Now, scalp issues don't come from one place. Usually there are layers that contribute to the issues that we see with our scalp. All right. So this, again, I mentioned this in all of the 5 signs, but these are going to be your products, because products contain things. Products contain chemicals. Not all the time are those chemicals healthy for our scalp. Not all the time are we not sensitive to those things. So these are the detergents that are put in products, the fragrance, again, essential oils, and some preservatives. All right. Another layer that can contribute to your scalp irritation or your scalp issues is the styling. How we style our hair directly affects the scalp, especially if these styles are too tight, especially if these styles are creating a lot of buildup underneath a protective style. So, if you have a protective style, braids, a sew-in, whatever, we tend to put a lot of products on our scalp, thinking that we're, oiling it for the sake of our scalp or hair not being dry. But over time, that stuff builds up. If you are over oiling your scalp, you need to also be cleansing. And cleansing doesn't mean you have to shampoo your hair while you're wearing braids or anything. That would be great. But you can do simple things like apple cider vinegar mixed with a little bit of water and just dab your scalp with that. That's better than just letting those products continue to sit for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time. Another thing that contributes to scalp irritation is routine imbalance. So if your routine is not balanced, you can be creating a lot of issues with your hair and your scalp as well. So if your moisture and protein are not balanced, that can create issues, and then over cleansing or over oiling. And then also we talked a lot about external things, but I want you to remember, because we do deal with hair health from a holistic perspective, internal inflammation. So this is things that are going on inside the body, your stress, your blood sugar swings, okay, any gut issues. Because remember, the gut is where you absorb the nutrients that your hair needs in order to grow healthy, or that your follicles need in order to grow healthy hair. Okay, so just remember that. And then of course, nutrition. So this is what you eat. These are your minerals, these are your vitamins. And then we also have to take into consideration, because we're dealing with a specific age group, we have to think about hormonal shifts. So the hormones are definitely a factor when we're dealing with hair and scalp issues. So really quickly, let's talk about what most people do that keeps them stuck. All right, what most people do that keeps them stuck. And if you can identify yourself in any of these reasons, you go ahead and comment below. So if you're treating the symptom instead of the root layer, okay, you're treating the symptom instead of the problem. I always say hair loss, scalp issues are symptoms, not problems. If you are losing your hair, if you're having issues with your scalp, it is something deeper happening. And that's what we have to get to and deal with that. Or you're just going to continue being in a loop of trying to treat a problem that's not being, or treat a symptom and not treating the problem. Okay. Another thing that people do to keep them stuck is, I'll say this again, adding oils to everything. We want to oil our scalp to death. Okay. Most of the time, our scalp doesn't need a lot of oil. And if you're going to oil your scalp, you must hydrate first. You need a water-based product first, and then you seal with oil. Okay. And I mentioned this again about the tingling sensation that we get when we use certain products, specifically essential oils like rosemary oil, tea tree oil, peppermint oil. When we put those directly on the scalp, we feel the tingle, and we like that because the tingle makes us feel like something's working. But too much of that, okay, too much of that tingling sensation is actually harming your scalp barrier. Okay, we need our barrier to stay balanced because we want our hair to grow healthy. Okay, again, using harsh dandruff shampoos, using excessively using clarifying shampoos when we don't need it, especially when our scalp is already dry and irritated. That means we need to get our scalp back into balance first. Okay, waiting too long to reset the scalp. All right, if you start seeing issues, then you have to jump into action. You have to jump into action quickly. Okay, because the longer you ignore these signals and the longer you ignore these signs, the more down the rabbit hole your scalp is going to go of being unhealthy. Okay. And then switching products without constantly tracking. Switching products constantly without tracking what's working. Okay. So if you're switching products and it's only been a couple of weeks since you've used something and you're upset because you haven't seen the results, I want you to know the older that we get, the longer we have to wait. It's unfortunate, but I tell women, and this is not a sexy thing, I know that, 90 days. You have to give it 90 days. Okay? At least try to. Now, the exception to that is if you're using something and you're noticing that it's causing you more irritation, it's causing you problems, it's not reacting well with your scalp or your hair, then yes, of course you would stop using it immediately. Okay? What we have to do is we have to reset. First things first, we have to reset the scalp. We have to remove any buildup and irritants without stripping the scalp. We have to get our scalp back to a healthy balance. All right, that's the first thing. And we do that by using mild products, lots of hydration, lots of moisturizing, and making sure we're using products and ingredients that are calming the scalp and calming the irritation. That doesn't mean you can't use oils. That doesn't mean you shouldn't use oils, but we can't overuse. We have to baby the scalp back to health. Okay. And then at that point, we can start to restore the scalp barrier, restore balance, restore moisture, restore our hair, protein and, moisture balance on the hair level too, because we're talking a lot about the scalp, but of course you would want to deal with the hair as well. And then we go into protecting what we've fixed. Once you fix it, you want to protect it, and then you want to maintain. Now, all of that said, your scalp care needs a system. You need a way to be able to identify what's going on with your scalp, and then based on what you've identified, know how to correct the issue. Okay. And you identify what's going on with your scalp by understanding scalp symptoms. Okay. I just covered 5, but there are, of course, going to be more than that. All right. Understand your scalp symptoms and then avoid the common mistakes that keep irritation going. One of the common mistakes that keeps irritation going is dealing with the symptom of irritation and not dealing with the problem. You have to follow a step-by-step scalp reset. There are a lot of people that are ignoring their scalp issues. They just want to go straight to the hair growth. I just want my hair to grow. You don't. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I just want my hair to grow, Kendra. I just tell me what to use to make my hair grow. And there was a time when I was doing that. I would go through the list of specific products and ingredients that in herbs, because I am a studying herbalist, herbs and all of those things that are beneficial for hair growth. And so we had to start taking a step back and saying, okay, hair doesn't just grow just because, like, there's a process. All right. And so I want to start making sure that we are dealing with that first. Now, I have a course. It's called the Scalp Care Mini Course. Okay. And if you're someone that's dealing with itching, flakes, tightness, burning, tingling, oiliness, shedding, thinning edges, this course is going to be for you. So this course is going to help you if you are someone that's on the road to restoring or regrowing your hair. So if you're experiencing any symptoms with your hair and scalp, they are communicate. Your scalp is always communicating. Your hair is always communicating. It's always telling you what's going on. Okay. You just need to get the right language so that you know how to listen and then what to do, because this is going to be the most important part of your hair health journey. I want to make sure that we all know when you support your scalp, you create the foundation for healthy hair and length retention. Because remember, a lot of us don't have issues with hair growth, okay? Because biology says your hair is always growing, right? The issue that we have is length retention. We have the issue of length retention. So our hair is growing, but somewhere along the line, it's not growing strong. It's not getting enough nutrients. So when it grows out, it grows weak, and then it becomes very brittle, and it can't stand up to all the styling and the weather and the environment and the different things that we do to it. And then especially if you're stressed, if you're dealing with hormonal imbalances, things of that nature, it can create a lot of disruption in your hair growth cycle. Okay. It could be a nutritional deficiency. It could be medication. A lot of times, we get to a certain age, we on medications. It could be just a busy lifestyle. Many times we are not eating healthy because we're doing so much. We're drinking too much caffeine, coffee, sugary drinks. All of these things take a toll on your hair, the health of your hair. So if you're over styling your hair too much, if you're adding a lot of added extensions to your hair and not taking care of the hair underneath, that can cause length retention issues. I mean, I could go on, the list goes on, but your hair and your routine better than anybody, right? I could be speaking for issues for 100 different women, but at the end of the day, you know what your routine is. You know the things that you're doing and not doing. Okay. As an herbalist, I always like to deal with food first. Okay. Before I start telling you what products to buy, what shampoos to get, what supplements to take, we want to get all of our nutrients from our food first. Okay. Fortunately, unfortunately, a lot of the food is not nutrient rich, okay, as it should be. So we do sometimes have to supplement with pills. The catch with that is you have to make sure you're getting your supplements from a good source. Okay. So there's a lot of nuances when it comes to hair health and hair growth. And so that's why I do what I do, because I know it isn't easy. I know that there are a lot of factors. Okay, again, I've been doing this for about a decade now, maybe a little longer. And I've owned a hair salon. I've sold hair extensions. That's kind of how I got into this business anyway. A lot of the women that I was selling hair extensions to were dealing with hair loss, and they were buying the extensions to help cover the hair loss. Okay. And so once I saw that, I was like, whoa, 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 let's stop for a second. Let's pause for a second and see how we can help these women. Okay. And so that's kind of how my business grew from there. And I've heard a lot of stories and spoken to a lot of women, made a lot of products, done a lot of research. So I get it. I want you to remember one thing before I leave. I talked about how your hair growth is part of your body's biology. Like, that's one of the things, one of the systems that your hair is going to, that your body is going to do, and you don't have to really do anything other than support that process. Unfortunately, hair growth is not a priority for your body. It's not a life-saving thing. It's really more about vanity. I'm saying that your body prioritizes your major organs, okay? The major processes, your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidneys. Your hair is always going to be last. So if you're already deficient, if your body is already struggling to deliver nutrients to the rest of your body, your hair is not getting anything, okay? So if you're already deficient, your hair is already fighting a losing battle, okay? So we have to support the system that's already doing the work. You don't really have to do anything to make your hair grow. You just have to support the hair growth process. So yeah. Again, my scalp care course launches on Tuesday. Feel free to check it out. I've linked it, or I've pinned it in the comments. So go over there, check it out, and see if it's something that you'll be interested in. And let me know if you have questions. Be sure to hit the like button. Check the pinned comment for our course that is launching on Tuesday. It is called the Scalp Care Mini Course. It's for you, especially if you are dealing with scalp issues, and especially if you're somebody that is trying to regrow your hair. If you're just chasing hair growth and it seems like it's not working, it probably means that there's something bigger going on beneath the scalp. So we want to learn how to identify those things and deal with our scalp based on that. Again, thank you so much for being here.